The clinic's fluorescent light hummed steadily as Evie Carter stepped onto the scale. Digits blinked, climbing higher before freezing at 603.4 pounds. Dr. Alvarez pulled the slip from the printer, its bold letters clear: final warning. Authorization expires, Dex 24/11:59 p.m. Her heart thudded. Evie smoothed her skirt with deliberate calm. "It's just a number," she said softly, though her knuckles blanched on the chair. Maddie 12 sat in silence, clutching her backpack strap like a lifeline, her eyes darting anxiously. Dr. Alvarez folded his hands on the desk. "Mrs. Carter, we are out of extensions. 60 pounds in 12 weeks. Weekly weigh-in supervised rehab. If you don't meet that, the slot is gone, and insurance freezes for 6 months. It's not punishment. It's about safety." Evie's jaw clenched. "I'll manage. We've gotten through before." Maddie's voice was almost a whisper. "Mom." But she didn't finish. The November air outside felt sharper than the doctor's words. In the parking lot, Maddie unscrewed her water bottle, passing it forward. "Stay warm, Mom." Evie forced a faint laugh. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Don't fuss." Their breath hung like smoke. A car radio nearby carried the scratchy call of a baseball replay. "It's a long season." A church bell tolled faintly in the distance. That night, their small Maplewood apartment glowed dim under a single porch light. Bills and unopened envelopes crowded the counter. Maddie, curled under blankets, had drifted to sleep. Evie sat alone at the table, the clinic's envelope glaring up at her. She opened a drawer with restless hands. Buried under pens and tape was a scuffed pedometer, its silver paint worn thin. She lifted it, thumb brushing the reset button. For a moment, she imagined its steady clicks echoing through long evenings. The thought made her chest ache. With a sharp sigh, she let it fall back, the drawer shutting with finality. Leaning on the window ledge, she stared at the glowing porch light. Outside, snow threatened, drifting in faint specks across the glass. Her reflection overlapped the envelope's deadline, the words Deck 24, almost pulsing in bold. She whispered to herself, steady but defiant, "I'll handle it my way." The envelope marked Deck 24 lay under the porch light's glow, as unyielding as time itself. The morning was sharp with November frost when Evie gripped the black rail outside the Maplewood post office. Her breath came heavy before she even started. One step, then another. By the third, her knees buckled, chest pounding. A mother tugged her child closer, whispering, "Don't stare, honey." Another voice trailed behind, pitying and careless, "Poor thing. She can barely move." Heat rose to Evie's cheeks, sharper than the cold. Inside, the line wound past glass doors plastered with Christmas stamps and charity flyers. Evie adjusted her coat, willing her breathing to quiet. An elderly veteran with medals on his cap leaned on a cane 2 places behind her. She stepped aside. "Sir, please take my spot." He gave a surprised nod. "Appreciate it, ma'am." Maddie squeezed her hand, pride mixing with worry as her mother leaned against the counter for balance. Later, the Maplewood diner wrapped them in warmth. Vinyl seats creaked, the bell above the door jingled with each new customer. Mabel arrived with the pot. "Refills on me?" "Baby steps count, honey." She poured until steam fogged Evie's glasses. Evie stared into the cup. "It feels like crawling backwards. Every step hurts more than it should." Maddie leaned forward. "But you came in here walking, not riding the bus." "That counts." From the next booth, a farmer in a flannel jacket added kindly, "She's right, ma'am. Keep at it. Winter's rough, but folks make it through." Evie managed a thin smile. For a moment, the whispers of the post office faded into coffee steam and kind eyes. That evening, folding tables in the church basement sagged with potluck casseroles and pies. The smell of cheese and onions filled the space. Nora bustled in, setting a heavy dish down before Evie. "Eat. You need strength." Evie pushed it back. Strength isn't in another slice, Nora. It's in saying no. Nora frowned. You're always so dramatic. A little food won't kill you. Her words stung sharper than she intended. Maddie reached for her mother's sleeve, whispering, We don't have to stay long. After cleanup, Evie faced the stone steps of the church. Choir voices drifted faintly through stained glass above. She planted one foot, then another. Halfway up, her legs trembled. Her lungs burned, heart racing in panic. She froze, unable to rise or fall. Maddie's voice trembled. It's okay, Mom. We'll try again tomorrow. But Evie's tears blurred the porch light glowing in the distance, a beacon she could not yet reach. With shame heavy as her body, she turned back, retreating down the steps. That night, she sat on the stoop of their apartment, the porch light buzzing weakly overhead. Cold air bit her skin. Neighbors passed without a word. Her breath was ragged, the echo of whispers from the post office looping in her ears. She lowered her head, knowing the hardest weight she carried wasn't only measured in pounds. The porch light glowed steady, but Evie remained slumped beneath it, unable to rise. Maddie knelt in the hallway, tying her sneakers with quick fingers. She looked up, her eyes steady. Mom, will you walk with me to the post office today? The request was gentle, but it pressed on Evie's heart harder than any lecture. At the clinic, Dr. Alvarez spread Evie's chart across the desk. The baseball replay drifted faintly from the waiting room, bottom of the ninth. He tapped the paper. Here it is, Mrs. Carter. 60 pounds, 12 weeks. Deadline December 24th, 11:59 p.m. Fail this and your surgical slot is gone. Insurance suspends for 6 months. I need you to log every step, every rehab visit. Weekly weigh-ins are mandatory. His tone was firm yet compassionate. Evie's throat tightened. Maddie placed a small hand on her arm. We can do this together. That afternoon, they stepped onto the sidewalk. Evie clipped the old pedometer to her coat pocket. With each careful step, it clicked tick, tick, like a stubborn metronome. Maddie counted softly, cheering every 10 paces. For the first time, Evie felt rhythm instead of weight. Later, Nora appeared at the apartment carrying a foil-covered tray. Made you something sweet. You need comfort food. Evie stared at the dish, jaw set. Oi. Nora, this kind of love is killing me. Her sister scoffed. You always exaggerate. A little sugar won't. Evie cut her off, voice rising. No, not anymore. If you can't see what this does to me, then stop pretending it's kindness. Maddie stood quietly behind her, eyes wide, hearing her mother's boundary drawn sharp. The next Sunday, Mabel met Evie outside the diner. I'll walk with you tomorrow if you want, she offered. Evie nodded, surprised at her own relief. She was choosing allies, not saboteurs. That night, she taped the clinic's weigh-in sheet to the refrigerator. The bold number glowed. Next to it, a calendar showed rehab sessions circled in red. The paper hung firm on the fridge door, a fragile victory lit by the porch light through the window. Snowflakes clung to Evie's coat as she stepped out of rehab, her breath visible in the late December air. She pulled the old pedometer from her pocket. 987 steps. Close enough to 2,000, and yet she smiled, as if she'd conquered a mountain. Beside her, Maddie tugged her mittened hand. From a nearby car radio came the crackling voice of a sports announcer, 2 outs, bottom of the ninth. The words lingered, an echo of tension and chance. That afternoon, the clinic's fluorescent lights seemed harsher than usual. Dr. Alvarez guided Evie onto the scale. The numbers blinked, then froze. 58 pounds, too short of the goal. Silence hung heavy. Evie's chest collapsed inward, hope leaking away. I failed, she whispered. Dr. Alvarez met her gaze. Not yet. Sit tight. That evening, the diner's potluck bustled with neighbors. Steam rose from mugs of coffee frosting the windows against the cold. Mabel poured refills, her hand firm on Evie's shoulder. Honey, look around. You've walked every step here. Applause broke from the crowd. Maddie squeezed close, whispering, Mom, they see you. Later in the quiet of the church, Pastor John adjusted his scarf and looked at her kindly. The porch light doesn't judge the hour, he said softly, only that you come home. The words burrowed deep, loosening the shame that had gripped her for years. Back at the clinic, Dr. Alvarez reappeared with her chart. This is Carter. He began. You missed the target by 2 pounds, but your logs are meticulous. Pedometer steps consistent. Rehab attendance, perfect. Lab work shows improved oxygenation. This isn't failure, it's progress. He set the paper down firmly. We keep your slot. Progress like this is real. Evie's tears spilled freely. Maddie threw her arms around her, burying her face in her mother's coat. Church bells tolled outside, rolling through Maplewood like a benediction. At midnight, the pedometer clicked softly, tick, tick, as if marking not loss, but a new beginning. The morning after fresh snowfall, Maplewood streets sparkled under a pale sun. Evie zipped her coat cheeks, flushed from the chill. She glanced at Maddie and spoke with quiet resolve. Maddie, home name me Tootie, guy too. The word startled even her, but Maddie's grin spread wide. The porch light, still glowing faintly from the night, flickered as if nodding approval. Evie stepped onto the shoveled path. Her boots crunched against the snow, each step heavier than the last, but steadier than weeks before. On Main Street, holiday decorations still clung to shop windows. Evie paused on a wooden bench chest, rising and falling. A passerby tipped his cap. Stay warm, ma'am. She nodded, catching her breath. Maddie sat beside her, eyes shining. You're doing it, Mom, she whispered. Evie exhaled, lips trembling. Feels like the world's moving slower for me, but I'm still moving. They reached the post office at last. The steps that once mocked her now seemed less like walls and more like invitations. Evie climbed, carefully shoulders squared. Inside, the clerk smiled as Maddie slid an envelope forward. Just one today, she said proudly. Evie steadied herself against the counter, whispering, I made it! On their way out, snowflakes caught in Evie's hair. Maddie squeezed her hand. You're stronger than you think. Her mother's eyes glistened, but this time with relief instead of shame. Later, the diner buzzed with familiar warmth. Mabel appeared, coffee pot in hand. Refill, she asked, not waiting for an answer, as she topped Evie's cup. Evie pulled a postcard from her purse, writing slowly, To future me, keep walking. Mabel leaned closer. That's the best promise you'll ever keep. The pedometer clicked as Evie shifted in the booth. She looked down. 345 steps. A milestone she never thought possible. Maddie clapped softly, eyes wide with pride. Evie's laughter was low, raspy, but genuine. She closed her eyes, smiling as her breath steadied, snow falling, the world finally at her pace. A year later, Maplewood rested under a blanket of snow, every rooftop edged in white. On the porch of the Carter apartment, a small Christmas tree twinkled in the window, its glow merging with the steady beam of the porch light. Inside, Evie unpacked a frame, her hand steady. Within lay the battered pedometer, scratched, but dignified, a small plaque beneath, engraved with Deck 24. The radio hummed in the kitchen, replaying a classic baseball game. The announcer's voice crackled. It's a long season. Evie paused, letting the words settle. Once they had mirrored her dread, now they sounded like endurance itself. Maddie straightened the tree skirt, her quiet humming drifting with the scent of cinnamon candles. That evening, the church was filled with candlelight and song. Pastor John shook Evie's hand at the door. Glad to see you, Evelyn. The porch light of faith shines steady, just like yours. Inside, the choir lifted Silent Night. Mabel slid into the pew beside them, setting down a thermos. Coffee's still hot, she whispered with a smile, steam curling upward. Maddie poured 2 cups, their warmth like a blessing in her small hands. After the service, neighbors lingered offering greetings. "Stay warm out there," someone called as the Carters stepped into the cold. Their laughter followed them home, blending with the tolling of the church bell across the town square. Back inside, Maddie pulled a card from her coat pocket. "Mom, you walked us into a new life." The words wavered, but her smile was steady. Inside, stars drawn in blue ink framed her careful handwriting. Evie's throat ached as she lifted the frame. She hung the pedometer on the wall just beside a family photo taken that morning, the tree glowing in the background, the nail tapped into place with a finality that felt like peace. Maddie leaned against her shoulder. "Now it belongs here." Evie whispered back, "So do we." The pedometer hung gleaming, no longer a relic of failure, but proof of survival and renewal. The view drew back porch light, glowing steady, trees shimmering, coffee steam still rising, and the church bell echoing across Maplewood's snowy night. The framed pedometer now rested steady on the wall, its cracked surface no longer a mark of failure but of a journey endured. Evie's breath came easy as if each step had finally loosened years of weight she carried inside. In that warm light, she learned dignity wasn't about reaching a perfect number, but about choosing each day to keep walking. True family, she discovered, was measured not by blood, but by the steady hands that held you upright. The porch light glowed, the church bell lingered in the distance, and Maddie whispered, "We made it." Share your thoughts below and stay with us for more stories.